This class today's class is about apathy, but apathy in relation to politics. In short, why doesn't every American vote? And if you're watching this from home, please print out the assignment on Google Classroom and fill it out as you go, and you should be in the loop. And I'm guessing you know what apathy means. In case you don't, what is apathy? It means you don't give a hoot. You don't give a hoot. And there's plenty of your classmates in the hallway, and you can look at them and you can tell they don't care about this, that, or the other thing. This is an AP government class. You care more than most. That's what makes you cool. But bear in mind, a lot of Americans are apathetic when it comes to politics. Whoever's in office, it doesn't matter. I don't care. I don't want to fiddle with it. So there's pretty pervasive apathy in American politics. That is safe to say. Not really an opinion. That's more of a fact. So we started off with two big discussion questions. Are you planning on voting or not? Now, the majority of you said, yeah, I'm going to vote, but it's an AP government class. A few people did not. We picked their brains. Why not? And hopefully that was a little microcosm to the bigger world. And then the second question was, is voting a right, privilege, or duty? I said duty. That was cool. But it's all three. It's all three. It's a right because we all have it. It's a privilege because it's going to be taken away. And it's a duty. There's an argument, a pretty good argument. If people aren't involved in our democracy, is it really a democracy? Think about that. So anyway, so when you look at non-voting, this is some tough stuff. I'm not exactly sure why, but at present, America is 140th in the world. Malta's number one, if you were curious. Yeah, that's an island in the Mediterranean. There's a little geography for you. But anyway, there is an argument, there is a theory that the reason why people don't go to vote in America, there's so many elected positions, over 500,000. And the argument is we're inundated with so many elections, they cease to have value. In a sense, there's just too many of them. Whether you agree with that or disagree with that, I'll leave that up to you. Could be an argument on an FRQ. Who knows? So another common explanation is that there's low registration rates. That people just don't register, they don't know how, or they don't take the time to do so. Some people say, well, people can vote, they just refuse to do so. They just don't want to. And there's a few reasons, and fill this out on your sheet. Number one, they just don't want to. They just like politics. This is 20% of the population that says, the heck with it all. I want nothing to do with it. Now, if those 20% voted, it would change the outcome. Whether for good or bad, I don't know, but it would change the outcome. Now, the second reason is this time zone fallout, which is an interesting theory because there's a lot of people that live in the East, and people who live out West or even in Hawaii, they'll watch CNN or Fox News and go, it's already done. What's the point? The East, there's so many people in the East who have swayed the election. I'm not going to go out. Now, that is sometimes legit. That is sometimes legit. There are some elections that are pretty much done before your vote even goes there. However, that's just for president. Some people don't go out, and it affects the local and state elections because they just say, president is established. I don't need to vote. Unfortunately, that is true. Okay. Now, the third reason, some people say it's a cumbersome process. They say it's a pain in the butt to fill out the paperwork to get it sent to you, or it's a pain in the butt to actually go through this very lengthy, confusing ballot. That is an argument some people say. The fourth argument, which is most people's initial go-to, is just laziness. I'm not leaving. I'm just too lazy to vote. That may or may not be true. I think there's a few people that fits into there. Now, the fifth reason, the long lines, and sometimes the lines can be very uncomfortable. You're waiting, you're frustrated, especially if you have somewhere to go, or you're trying to sneak out during your lunch break, or you have people in the parking lot who are a little too exuberant over their candidate and make a big hullabaloo. They just say it's really unpleasant to go to the polls. Bad weather, believe it or not, weather dictates elections. That if it's a beautiful day, people are more prone to go out to vote versus it's raining, it's snowing. I'm not going out in that stuff. The heck with it. Weather can dictate voter turnout, believe it or not. And then work, and this is legit. I think about it. In America, we have our elections on a Tuesday. I'm at work, and I get to work at 6:30. That's before the polls open. I'm coaching wrestling. By the time the practice is over, it's maybe 5:30 at night. I maybe have an hour or two to get to the polls. Am I too tired? My wife works a 12-hour shift. Her shift matches the voting hours. She works 7 to 7, and it's very difficult. So having elections on a Tuesday and people who need the work, they want to vote, I can't. I'll get fired, that kind of stuff. So anyway, those are the 7 reasons. Please fill those out on your sheet. And then we interpreted a couple stimuli. So for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through this, but on your worksheet, how can you interpret this? As you can see, the people who care all the way to those who get involved. And then voter turnout over the years. Why do you think this is? Now, in my lifetime, I was born in 74. It's been hugging the 60% line pretty much, or below the 60 line most of my lifetime. But you look in the 19th century, people were getting after it. Why is that? Anyway, we talked about that in class. When you come back, we'll talk about it in class. Okay, and there's a couple big turning points. Now, this is unfortunate, and this is a fact of American politics. People show up to the presidential elections, okay, those 4 years, but bear in mind, House members get elected every 2 years. I'm talking school board, I'm talking local stuff. And you can see this pattern that's been going on since 1960. Presidential election high, off-year elections low. High, low, high, low. You can just see that all the way down the line. But I want to give you some perspective. Those off-year elections with your House of Reps and your local stuff may affect your life more than whoever's the president, or at least equal. I don't quite know why people treat this differently, but that's a reality of American politics. Now, Congress and states have since reduced state prerogative in 6 stages. Now, I need you to know these 6 stages. These are the kind of the big turning points in American voting. So when we started off in America, property owning white men, they did that at the beginning of our country. Then we had some changes. Women came into the mix with the 19th Amendment. Black men came into the mix with the 15th Amendment. Directly electing U.S. senators came about with the 17th Amendment. The removal of poll taxes, thank goodness, if I may say so, with the 24th Amendment, and then 18-year-olds being able to vote with the 26th Amendment. With these changes, we had different outcomes, and I think you can see the pattern of more inclusivity in voting over the years. Certainly, we did not start off inclusive. As I speak to you now, we're a heck of a lot more inclusive. That is safe to say. Now, let's go a little more detail about black voting rights. Black voting rights came about. This is just for men, bear in mind. The 15th Amendment, gutted by Supreme Court, is not conferring a right to vote on race. Southern states used evasive strategies. Okay, we talked about poll taxes, literacy tests. So even though the Constitution said black men to vote, states made it difficult, like literacy tests, poll taxes, white primaries, grandfather clauses. So it wasn't that these, in particular in the South, magically said, oh, yeah, black men, show on up, no problem. They put a lot of roadblocks in their place to try to prevent that. They did not want black men voting. Let's keep it simple. A lot of times they were intimidated. Black man's going to the polls and people would threaten them. You go to the polls, we're going to do horrible things to you. Yeah, a lot of them said, okay, well, that's a problem, you know, so you get that. Not a good situation. Now, most of these strategies ruled out by the Supreme Court. Smith versus Allwright of 1944 attempted to right the wrong here, and the court ruled that it was unconstitutional for the state to delegate its authority over elections to the Democratic Party in order to allow discrimination to be practiced. This ruling affected all other states where the party used white primary rule. So, 1944, they attempted to right the wrong, but bear in mind, that's about what 50 years of all those unpleasant things beforehand, and it did not magically end with Smith versus Allwright. Sad to report. Then a major change, and you keep seeing this pop up time and time again in government, the 1965 Voting Rights Act. This is landmark legislation. This is really the time when you can say things improved, but it was a long process, almost a 100-year process to get to that point. And there's President Johnson with Reverend Martin Luther King behind him signing it. Please know the 1965 Voting Rights Act. That's a biggie in the world of AP government. A little more detail about women. Western states did allow women to vote all the way in 1869, but it wasn't until the 19th Amendment that was ratified in 1920 that women could vote. No dramatic changes in outcome. It really didn't affect things as much as some people projected it would. But women have been voting for over 100 years now, and they're an important electorate that candidates try to win over. And then let's look at young people. Voting Rights Act of 1970. Why 18? Well, at 18, you get shipped off to Vietnam. So I think it's a pretty good argument. Wait, I can die for this country, but I can't vote for the people sending me off to die? Okay, that argument won the day. So the 26th Amendment was ratified in 1971. And it was a lower turnout. No particular party, only major impact, 72. Vietnam was the big thing that created this. So turnout increased in 1992 to 47%. Now, I turned 18 in 1992, and I actually got to see Bill Clinton speak when I was on my college campus at Michigan State. And he really got young people enthusiastic about politics. I saw it firsthand. I actually was walking to class and saw the rally, and I skipped class to watch him. And he had that audience in the palm of his hand. So he got young people out. Also, at the time, there's a thing called MTV, where they showed these things called music videos where artists would sing a song with a visual, and it was very popular amongst young people, and MTV got on board. So that really got young people in the mix. They called it rock the vote, by the way. This aged really badly. Hey, Diddy says go out and vote. Yeah, I'm not listening to Diddy at all. Okay, we all know what Diddy did, scumbag. Anyway, I digress. And you can see that over the years, it fluctuates. But one thing that holds true: old people vote a lot. Young people, not so much. So, unfortunately, in this country, we have this division where old people, mid range people, and young people, you can see the pattern is pretty etched in stone. Okay, so all you okay boomers, well, these okay boomers are in power probably because they vote. Okay boomer. It's Please do better. Please do better. Just help me out there. Okay, that made the point. Okay, so who participates in politics? So there's 6 types of participants, and for the sake of time, I'm running long. Go to your book and look at these. Inactives, they don't get involved. You have voting specialists in charge of the process, and people go out and campaign. Okay, and so we have these 6. For the sake of time, please look at those in your book. The causes of participation. Schooling, if you have higher education, you're more likely to vote. Churchgoers vote more. If you're religious, you're going to vote more often. Men and women vote at about the same rate today. Gender doesn't hold in the mix. Now, race does. Black voting rates are lower than their white counterparts. Latinos are even lower. And in class, we discussed why. Come up with your own reasons for the sake of time. We did another interpretation of, okay, we looked at this. Very stimulus heavy sort of thing. But bear in mind, with your FRQs, you better get good at these. Okay, so other factors that decrease turnout: youth, blacks, other minorities. If you're young, you're a minority, you're not showing up to vote like other people. Some people see that the parties are ineffective, you're disillusioned. They say it's too difficult to vote. Now, some nations, they say you have to vote. It's compulsory voting. Should America have that? I don't know. Americans aren't really good to being told what to do. It's not really part of our culture. And then language barriers. Bear in mind, if English is your second language, you tend not to go and vote because you simply might not understand the language. Okay. And again, that feeling of apathy. A lot of people saying it doesn't matter. I'm in a bad situation regardless. Now, to be able to vote, you need to be a citizen. Okay. So there you go. 14th Amendment, I'll just read the first. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. That's what establishes citizenship. Also, you need to be a resident. Used to be 1 year. It used to be 90 days. Then the Supreme Court case Dunn versus Bloomstein said 30 days is enough in the state. Now, some are even less. 15 days in South Dakota. Arizona is 50. But bear this in mind. If you go to college in a different state, how long do you have to be there to vote in that state? Now, that can change things. Some states are pretty much locked in, either Republican or Democrat. But you get a lot of college kids who tend to vote Democrat. Does that tip the balance? In terms of our elected officials, if they do, they have to live in their actual state. For how long do they have to live? This is the kind of the debate in that. Another qualification, 26th Amendment says if you're 18, no problem. In 1970, only 4 states had it under 21. As I speak to you, every state has 18-year-olds voting. So some people in the class are 18. You can vote. Oh, some people who can't vote, this can be controversial. If you're in a psychiatric hospital, if you're incarcerated, if you have a dishonorable discharge from the military, if you're homeless, polygamous, meaning you have multiple spouses, transients, these are people who are just really have no place. They wander about. And these are people who cannot vote. And some people say this is good. Some people say this is bad. I'll leave this up to you. And we're going to wrap up here. New redesigned terms for voting. Now, retrospective voting. What have you done for me lately? So what happens is that people look at the economy is usually the key issue. And if it's going well, they say nothing else matters. A lot of people vote with their wallet. Rational choice voting, voting based on what is perceived to be in the best individual's interest, what's best for me. Prospective voting. This is predictions that these political scientists use to try to see the outcome, and then party line voting. Some people say, I'm a Republican, dyed in the wool, I'll only vote Republican, I don't care who it is, or Democrat. A lot of people call this straight ticket voting. That's quite easy. You go in there and fill in Democrat, and everybody who's a Democrat gets it. Okay, I know that was a little lengthy, but again, if you missed class, please fill in that assignment on Google Classroom, and hopefully this sheds some light on the nature of American politics. So I appreciate you watching.